I think government ultimately fails this debate when they did not give a comparison on what these foreign companies give an added value towards how local companies are able to develop and how local companies are able to compete and have incentive to be able to be better in the future, ladies and gentlemen. As opposition team, ladies and gentlemen, our stance is very clear. We think that quota should not exist. We think that in the current status quo, local companies are having a benefit from foreign companies, and secondly, ladies and gentlemen, we think without this quota, local companies can still survive. So several framing, ladies and gentlemen. We are not defending that this will not be 100% quota, ladies and gentlemen. We agree that in the current status quo, foreign companies have majority towards what are the presented medias that are being presented. But we think that is the correct portrayalizations and correct characterizations on what are the needs of individuals and how we should be able to distribute our medias in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen. So as leader of opposition, I'll prove three main issues. One, I'm going to talk about can local companies are able to survive. Second, I'm going to talk about the existence of foreign content, why is it beneficial, and lastly, I'm going to talk about freedom, engaging with all of the Prime Minister case. First, let's talk about local companies, can they survive? So, government says that in the current status quo, local companies are very small, have no funding, no incentive to be able to compete. I think this context is very outdated. In the current status quo, local contents, especially in countries like Indonesia, countries like India, countries that are multicultural, are very thriving in their local contents, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that in dangdut, ladies and gentlemen, in Indonesia are very thriving, especially it's not a foreign content. The fact that Bollywood in India, not a foreign content, are able to thrive shows to you that in the current status quo, the ability of foreign contents to be acknowledged by the societies are particularly thriving, thus it's going to be better for them, ladies and gentlemen. But secondly, even if, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the characterization of government that some local companies in the current status quo are small, then they cannot give any kinds of interest, we think that is unlikely to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Because in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen, we think local can compete because first reason, there are so many segmentations of market that exist in the current status quo. We must characterize that even in the most polarized countries, they will have a segmentations of market. The fact that in Indonesia, we have markets that demands dangdut, markets that demand foreign music, we have markets that demands movies about our identity and demand movies about our culture, ladies and gentlemen, shows to you that in the current status quo, no matter how small you are or no matter how big you are able to take the interest of societies because there will be always people that are interested in you. This is particularly important because we think in the current status quo, we have so many movies that come out even if they have so less funding. See the context of Maipa and Maipa movie, ladies and gentlemen. See the context of all Makassar movies that are prominent in the current status quo. This shows to you that you don't need funding to access the movie industry. What you need is the ability of you able to engage to market, which we think in the current status quo already existed to begin with, ladies and gentlemen. Opposition must argue why, or government must argue why segmentations of market are unable to be able to penetrate these kinds of small companies that they want to protect at the very first place. But second reason, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is particularly important because we think in the current status quo, if government wants to say that in the current status quo, we want to change the local people to be more able to be concerned with our local products, then ladies and gentlemen, let's characterize most likely how do these people behave. We want to say, ladies and gentlemen, that most likely the current status quo, that people that do not like local movies or people that do not like local music doesn't necessarily mean, ladies and gentlemen, that they don't like, doesn't necessarily mean, ladies and gentlemen, that they don't have exposure to those kinds of music. But because they have rationalized that I don't like these kinds of movies, I don't like how these movies are bringing an ideology or how these movies are being presented, ladies and gentlemen. So they have already a sentiment towards how these movies are presented. So we think when this sentiment already existed, you cannot change them at the very first beginning. So the instance where you limit the ability for them to access other movies, then you are able to make them to be able amplify their sentiments even more, because they see that I am forced to engage in a movie which I, as individuals, are not comfortable into engaging upon, ladies and gentlemen. So we think if they want to make people to be concerning about these movies, they must argue why the characterization of people that do not like these movies to begin with can be changed at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We think local companies, in conclusion, can be protected in the current status quo. Secondly, let's talk about the existence of foreign content, why it's important to create an added value at the very first place. Two layers. First layer, let's talk about how foreign content in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen, gives an added value in terms of advancement towards local companies. In the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen, where foreign companies exist in these countries, it makes the local companies to be able to see that how do these kinds of movies are being filmed, how do these kind of movies are able to integrate and able to engage with how society likes it to be, ladies and gentlemen. That's why in Indonesia, we have so many changes in how we record a film, because they start to understand that foreign standards is good towards how society likes them to be, ladies and gentlemen. So we think they can have a learning value when foreign movies are able to engage the local communities, ladies and gentlemen. In comparison, if you say we can engage them in other platforms, that is not significant enough for local companies to be able to rationalize, oh, this thing is actually important. That's why in the past, Indonesian movies are unable to make good recording, because they see that our standard is the best, are unable to irrationalize and discuss that other standards might be also important in trying to develop our company at the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. So we think the existence of this is good for advancement of how we make movies or other kinds of contents. Second layer, let's talk about how competition gives incentive. We think, ladies and gentlemen, the existence of foreign companies to make counterbalance is actually important in trying to incentivize local companies to try even harder, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that foreign companies in recent years engaging to Indonesia makes local companies try to be more creative, ladies and gentlemen. That's why in the current status quo, we make movies such as make movies that are not portrayed in the past, ladies and gentlemen. That's why in current status quo, we make good movies that are more action, because we see that in the past, Indonesian movies doesn't make good action movies that represents what in societies wants, ladies and gentlemen. So I think the fact that foreign companies existed, it gives an extra incentive for local companies to be more creative. We think in the comparison, ladies and gentlemen, without foreign companies, it will make local companies to be lazy enough to say that I am protected in the current status quo. I do not have to be more creative, because the government will always protect me, ladies and gentlemen, and make me a quota in which I do not have to make creativeness, ladies and gentlemen. We know that it's marginal, ladies and gentlemen, but at least this extra incentive can create local companies to rationalize even better and make better discussion about creativity. We think opposition wins, ladies and gentlemen, and why local companies can be protected, and what is the added value for foreign contents. We beg to oppose. Thank you.